Chosen one. Saturday is not a coincidence. It's a quiet turning point. The moment where everything you've carried finally leans in your favor, even if no one else can see it yet. Something has been lining itself up behind the scenes, patiently, without noise, waiting for the exact moment when you were ready enough to notice. This isn't about hype or urgency. It's about timing. And this timing knows your name. You didn't arrive here by accident. I know people say that all the time, but this feels different when you really sit with it. Think about how many moments almost broke you. How many times you kept moving even when nothing was clear. Saturday carries that weight. It carries the quiet strength you built when you thought no one was watching. Before we go any further, stay with me until the end of this message, because there's something powerful about seeing the full picture unfold. And just once, right now, take a moment to place your warmest wish into the comments, whatever your heart needs most, and seal it with amen. Not as a ritual, but as an act of trust, as a signal that you're ready to receive. After that moment, the energy shifts, not loudly, not dramatically. It settles. Saturday doesn't arrive like a storm. It arrives like clarity, like finally exhaling after holding your breath longer than you realized. You may wake up and feel it before you understand it. A calm, a strange confidence, or even restlessness, like something is nudging you forward but hasn't given you the map yet. That's okay. You don't need the map right now. You just need to stay open. This day isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's not about revenge, validation, or finally being seen by the people who doubted you. If those things happen later, fine. But Saturday itself is more personal than that. It's about alignment, about the inner and outer parts of you finally facing the same direction. You've spent too long being pulled in opposite ways, what you felt versus what you showed, what you knew versus what you were told to accept. That tension has been exhausting. Saturday eases it. There's also something honest you should know. This doesn't mean everything instantly becomes easy. It means you become steadier. And steadiness changes everything. Decisions feel cleaner. Your reactions slow down. You stop chasing what drains you, almost without effort. Some conversations may feel different. Some people may feel more distant. That's not loss. That's space being made. You might notice small signs, not dramatic ones. A message you weren't expecting. A thought that keeps returning, gently but persistently. A sense that you're done tolerating certain patterns. These aren't random. They're confirmations. The kind that don't shout, but they don't lie either. Saturday is your turn because you've already paid for it. In patience, in restraint, in nights where you kept your faith quiet just to survive. Now the shift begins internally, where real change always starts. Nothing needs to be announced. Nothing needs to be forced. Just pay attention to what feels lighter, to what suddenly feels unnecessary, to what feels right without explanation. And if at any point you doubt this, that's human. Doubt doesn't cancel alignment. Sometimes it walks alongside it. Let it. You don't need to be perfect to receive what's meant for you. You just need to stay present enough to recognize it when it arrives. This is only the beginning. There's a moment after a shift like this where nothing on the outside has changed yet. But you feel different walking through the same rooms, the same streets, the same conversations. That's where you are now. Saturday doesn't flip the table. It adjusts the weight on it. And suddenly the things that used to slide off stop slipping. You feel more grounded, even if you can't explain why. You might catch yourself being quieter. Not withdrawn, just selective. Less interested in explaining yourself. Less willing to argue your truth into someone else's comfort zone. That's not you giving up. That's you realizing you don't owe everyone access to your inner world anymore. Some doors were never meant to stay open this long. What's interesting is how this can feel almost uncomfortable at first. Growth often does. When you've been used to carrying tension, calm can feel unfamiliar, even suspicious. Your nervous system might still be waiting for something to go wrong. That's normal. Let it pass. Don't rush to fill the silence with noise or distraction. This is the space where clarity speaks. Saturday also brings discernment. You start seeing patterns more clearly. Who drains you? What repeats? Where you've been shrinking to keep peace. It's not bitter awareness. It's clean. Matter of fact. Like finally reading the label instead of guessing what's inside. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's part of the turning point. You may feel pulled toward doing less, but doing it better. Fewer words, fewer promises, fewer emotional investments that don't give anything back. This isn't isolation, it's refinement. You're learning how to protect your energy without hardening your heart. That balance takes time. Be patient with yourself as you find it. There's also something else happening beneath the surface. Confidence, but not the loud kind. The quiet kind that doesn't need permission. The kind that lets you pause before responding instead of reacting. The kind that trusts its own timing. That's new for you, or at least it feels new. In reality, it's been growing for a while. Saturday just makes it visible. You might notice that some goals you once chased don't excite you the same way anymore. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you evolved. Desire changes when alignment changes. What once felt urgent may now feel irrelevant. And what truly matters may suddenly feel closer, even if it's still unfolding. Don't expect everyone to understand this version of you. Some people only know how to relate to who you were when you were more available, more pliable, more unsure. That doesn't make them bad. It just means the relationship has reached a natural limit. Not everything is meant to come with you into the next phase. If you feel moments of grief mixed in with the clarity, let that happen too. Release doesn't always feel clean. Sometimes it aches before it frees. You're allowed to miss what you've outgrown. You're allowed to honor the past without returning to it. Saturday marks the point where you stop forcing forward movement and start trusting natural momentum. You don't have to push doors anymore. The right ones open when you're ready to walk through them calmly, not desperately. Stay attentive. Stay gentle. You don't need to rush what's already on its way. By now, you may start to realize that the shift isn't asking you to do more. It's asking you to listen differently. Not to the noise around you, but to the quiet signals inside that you've ignored in the past because they didn't fit urgency or expectation. Saturday didn't hand you instructions. It gave you awareness. And awareness changes how you move without demanding effort. You might notice how your body responds before your mind does. A heaviness when something isn't right. A subtle ease when it is. These sensations were always there, but you were trained to override them, to push through, to rationalize discomfort. Now you're less interested in convincing yourself. You trust the feeling and move on. That alone saves you time, energy, and regret. There's a growing sense that you don't need to announce your plans. You're learning the power of quiet preparation. When intentions stay unspoken, they stay uncontaminated. No outside opinions shaping them. No premature doubt. Just you, building steadily, letting results speak later. This isn't secrecy. It's respect for your own process. You may also feel an unexpected pull toward simplicity. Clearing things out. Creating space. Saying no without a long explanation. Not because you're cold, but because you're tired of carrying what was never yours. Minimalism of the spirit. Fewer emotional obligations. Fewer internal negotiations. Life starts to feel more honest this way. At the same time, there's a deeper courage forming. Not the kind that rushes into battle, but the kind that waits and chooses wisely. You're not reacting to pressure anymore. You're responding to truth. That distinction matters. It changes outcomes. It changes who stays in your life and who quietly drifts away. Some moments may feel lonely. Growth often isolates before it connects you to the right people. Don't interpret the quiet as abandonment. Think of it as recalibration. Old signals fading, new ones tuning in. The silence is temporary and it's purposeful. You might catch yourself revisiting old memories, Not with pain, but with understanding. Seeing where you were doing the best you could with what you knew then. There's forgiveness in that. For others, yes, but especially for yourself. That release frees more energy than you realize. What's unfolding now doesn't need validation. It's real whether anyone claps or not. You're stepping into a version of yourself that moves with intention, not urgency. With clarity, not chaos. With faith, not fear. Saturday wasn't the finish line. It was the moment you stopped running in circles and started walking forward, steady and aware, knowing that the path responds differently when you do. Keep listening. The guidance is already there. There's a subtle strength that begins to settle in now, and it doesn't look the way strength is usually described. It's not loud. It doesn't posture. It doesn't need to be proven in front of anyone. It shows up as steadiness, as restraint, as the ability to pause and not feel guilty for it. You're no longer in a rush to become something. You're allowing yourself to be where you are, fully, without apology. You may notice that situations that once triggered you don't have the same grip anymore. The words still land, but they don't sink as deep. The tension still appears, but it passes faster. That's not numbness, that's maturity. That's you learning the difference between what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And that discernment didn't come overnight. It came from being tested more times than you wanted to count. There's also a shift in how you see effort. You're done exhausting yourself to keep things afloat that were already sinking. You're done being the only one trying. Now, effort feels intentional, directed. If something requires constant struggle just to exist, you're starting to question whether it belongs in your life at all. That's not selfish. That's honest. You might feel moments of guilt when you choose rest, when you choose distance, when you choose yourself. Let that guilt pass without obeying it. Guilt is often just an echo of old conditioning, not a sign you're doing something wrong. You don't need to earn rest anymore. You don't need permission to breathe. What's powerful about this phase is that you're not waiting for external confirmation. You're not scanning faces for approval. You're not adjusting your truth to fit the room. You're allowing rooms to reveal whether they fit you. That reversal changes everything. It puts you back in your own center. There may be moments where the future feels undefined. Not scary, just open. And that openness might feel strange if you're used to clinging to plans as a form of control. But this uncertainty is different. It's spacious. It's full of potential. You don't need to know every step yet. You just need to trust the direction you're facing. You're also learning that not every feeling needs to be analyzed. Some emotions just want to be felt and released. Not everything requires a lesson. Sometimes presence is enough. Sometimes sitting with yourself without distraction is the most grounding thing you can do. This part of the journey is quieter, but it's deeply transformative. You're shedding urgency. You're shedding noise. You're shedding versions of yourself that were built to survive, not to live. And without forcing it, you're stepping into something more sustainable, something real, something that doesn't collapse the moment pressure shows up. Keep moving gently. Strength doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just stays. By this point, you may realize that the biggest change isn't what you're doing. It's what you're no longer willing to tolerate. The threshold has shifted. What once felt normal now feels heavy. Conversations that revolve around fear, scarcity, or constant complaint drain you faster than before. Not because you're judging them, but because your system knows it can't live there anymore. You're starting to trust your own pace. That's new. There was a time when slowing down felt like falling behind, when rest felt like risk. Now you understand something deeper. Moving at the wrong speed costs more than waiting ever could. You don't force outcomes anymore. You allow them to meet you where you are, when you're ready to hold them. There's a quiet confidence in how you speak now, even when you say very little. You don't over-explain. You don't justify your boundaries with long stories. A simple no feels complete. A simple yes feels intentional. This isn't hardness. It's clarity. And clarity is kind, even when it's firm. You may notice that your intuition feels sharper, almost practical. It's not mystical or dramatic. It's grounded. It shows up in small decisions. Where you go, who you answer, what you delay. These choices might seem insignificant on the surface, but they're aligning pieces that will matter later. Alignment often looks boring before it looks brilliant. At times, you might feel a strange mix of peace and anticipation, like you're standing on a platform, not knowing exactly which train is coming, but knowing you're finally in the right station, that waiting isn't empty, it's charged. Things are reorganizing quietly around you. Old fears may try to resurface during this phase, not because you're going backward, but because they sense they're losing influence. Let them pass without wrestling them. You don't need to defeat every fear to move forward. You just need to stop letting them drive. You're also becoming more aware of how much you've grown emotionally. You don't react the way you used to. You don't spiral as long. You recover faster. That resilience didn't come from ease. It came from repetition. From getting back up so many times it became instinct. This part of the journey teaches you something important. Peace isn't the absence of challenges. It's the absence of inner resistance. You're not fighting life anymore. You're cooperating with it. And in that cooperation, momentum builds naturally, quietly, reliably. The kind that doesn't burn you out halfway there. You're closer than you think, not to an ending, but to a version of yourself that finally feels like home. There comes a point where you stop asking whether this shift is real, because your daily life starts answering for you. Not in dramatic ways, in subtle ones. You handle things differently. You breathe through moments that once would have tightened your chest. You notice that your inner voice isn't rushing you anymore. It's steady now. Calm. Almost patient with you. You begin to understand that power doesn't always look like action. Sometimes it looks like restraint. Like waiting one more moment before responding. Like choosing not to chase clarity from people who can't give it. You're no longer afraid of being misunderstood. That fear used to keep you performing. Now it fades, because you know who you are even when no one mirrors it back. This phase teaches you something important about trust. Not blind trust. Earned trust. The kind that grows from watching yourself survive uncertainty without falling apart. You've proven to yourself that you can sit in the unknown and still remain grounded. That's strength most people never develop, because they fill silence too quickly to avoid feeling it. You may notice that you're more honest with yourself now. You admit when something no longer fits. You stop romanticizing struggle. You stop confusing intensity with purpose. Life feels simpler, but not smaller. Clearer, but not empty. There's room to breathe here. At the same time, there's a deeper humility forming. Not insecurity, humility. You're aware of how much you don't need to control, how many things can unfold without your interference. That realization doesn't make you passive, it makes you precise. When you act now, it's because it matters. You might feel moments of stillness that almost feel sacred. Not because anything spiritual is happening externally, but because you're finally present enough to notice yourself. No rushing ahead, no replaying the past. Just here. And that presence anchors you in ways motivation never could. This is where real momentum begins. Not the frantic kind fueled by pressure, but the sustainable kind fueled by alignment. The kind that carries you forward without draining you. You don't need to push. You don't need to prove. You're moving because it's natural to move when resistance dissolves. You're not waiting anymore. You're preparing quietly, internally, without anxiety. When the next door opens, and it will, you'll walk through it without hesitation, because you won't be carrying the weight of who you used to be. This is the phase where trust replaces urgency, and that changes everything. There's a quiet realization that settles in around now, And it doesn't arrive with excitement. It arrives with acceptance. You stop trying to interpret every sign, every feeling, every delay. You understand that not everything needs to be decoded to be real. Some things simply are. And that simplicity brings relief. You may notice how little you crave reassurance lately. You're not scanning for signs that you're on the right path the way you used to. You're walking it. And that difference matters. The need for constant confirmation fades when your inner alignment becomes consistent. You trust yourself enough to continue without applause. There's also a new relationship forming with time. You're no longer fighting it. You're no longer trying to outrun it or force it to bend. You respect it. You let things mature instead of rushing them into shape. And in return, time starts working with you instead of against you. You might feel a deeper sense of responsibility. Not heavy, but grounded. Responsibility for your energy. For what you allow close. For what you give your attention to. You're aware now that attention is currency, and you're no longer spending it on things that leave you depleted. This isn't discipline, it's self-respect. Some days may feel almost too quiet. No emotional highs, no chaos, just steady presence. That can feel unfamiliar if you've lived in survival mode for a long time. But this calm isn't emptiness. It's stability. And stability allows growth that chaos never could. You're also becoming less reactive to other people's timelines. Their urgency doesn't infect you. Their panic doesn't pressure you. You stay in your lane, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. You know where you're headed, even if you don't yet know exactly how you'll arrive. What's unfolding now isn't meant to be rushed or broadcasted. It's meant to be integrated. This is the phase where changes become permanent because they're internal, not performative. You're not trying to become someone else. You're removing what was never truly you. There's strength in how little you need right now. Strength in the calm decisions. Strength in the pauses. Strength in the trust you've built with yourself. This is where your foundation settles. And once it does, what comes next will stand without shaking. There's a sense now that you don't need to look back as often. Not because the past doesn't matter, but because it no longer pulls at you. It sits where it belongs. Behind you. Informative, not demanding. You carry the lessons without carrying the weight. That alone changes how you walk forward. You may notice that your reactions have slowed in a way that feels intentional. You don't rush to fill gaps in conversation. You don't rush to fix what isn't yours to fix. Silence doesn't make you uneasy anymore. In fact, it tells you things words never did. You're comfortable letting moments breathe, and that comfort gives you quiet authority. This phase brings a deeper self-trust. Not the kind that says, "I know everything," but the kind that says, "I'll handle whatever comes." You're not predicting the future anymore. You're prepared for it. And preparation feels different than anxiety. It's steady, grounded. It doesn't keep you up at night. You might feel more selective with joy as well. You don't chase it. You allow it. When it shows up, it's clean, undramatic, real. A laugh that doesn't fade quickly. A sense of contentment that doesn't need a reason. These moments matter more than peaks ever did. There's also a growing awareness that you don't need to harden yourself to stay protected. Your boundaries don't come from fear anymore. They come from understanding. You know where you end and others begin. That clarity keeps you open without being exposed. You're beginning to move through life with fewer internal negotiations. Less should, less what if, more presence, more honesty. Decisions come from alignment instead of pressure. And even when a choice is difficult, it feels clean. You don't second-guess it endlessly. This is where integration happens, where all the quiet shifts settle into your nervous system, your habits, your way of being. Nothing flashy, nothing loud, just real change becoming normal. You're not trying to arrive anywhere anymore. You're already here. And from this place, whatever unfolds next won't feel like a leap, It will feel like a continuation. There's a calm that comes at the end of a long internal journey, and it doesn't feel like celebration. It feels like recognition. Like finally seeing yourself clearly in a quiet room and realizing you don't need to change the lighting anymore. You're not trying to become stronger now. You already are. You're not trying to be ready. You've been ready longer than you knew. What settles in first is peace with your own rhythm. You stop measuring progress by visible milestones and start feeling it in how you wake up, how you breathe, how you respond when something unexpected happens. You notice that you don't panic the way you used to. You pause. You assess. You move. That sequence alone tells you everything you need to know about how far you've come. You understand now that not everything meaningful announces itself. Some of the most important shifts happen quietly, without witnesses. And you're okay with that. You don't need proof for others. You only need truth for yourself. That's a powerful place to stand, because it can't be taken from you. There may still be moments of uncertainty ahead. That's life. But uncertainty no longer feels like danger. It feels like possibility, like open space instead of a closed door. You trust yourself to navigate it because you've already done harder things with less clarity than you have now. You've already survived versions of yourself that didn't know how to rest, how to say no, how to listen inwardly. You're not that person anymore. You also begin to feel gratitude, not the forced kind, not the performative kind, but a quiet appreciation for what didn't work out, for the delays, for the detours, for the unanswered questions that taught you patience. You see now how those moments shaped your discernment, how they trained you to wait without giving up and to move without rushing. There's a softness in you that didn't exist before. Not weakness, softness. The kind that allows compassion without self-betrayal. You don't harden when things get difficult. You steady. You remain. That's rare. And it's something you earned. As you move forward from here, you won't feel the need to chase signs or demand certainty. You'll recognize alignment by how natural things feel when they arrive. Opportunities won't drain you. Connections won't confuse you. Decisions won't haunt you at night. They'll feel clean, even when they're challenging. You'll also understand that this isn't an ending. It's a foundation. Everything that comes next builds on the calm you've established, not on chaos or urgency. You won't repeat old cycles because you won't be standing in the same place internally. The pattern breaks here, not through force, but through awareness. If anyone were to ask what changed, you might struggle to explain it. And that's okay. Some things can't be summarized without losing their meaning. You'll just know, and that knowing will guide you more reliably than any external advice ever could. You don't need to announce this chapter. You don't need to defend it. Just live it. Let your steadiness speak. Let your choices reflect it. Let your presence carry it quietly into every space you enter. This was your turn, and you didn't miss it.